Uncannily accurate astrological charts. That's what the followers of a man named Ulrich Bovar claimed he could provide, along with spiritual guidance. Some of them even believed he had the power to restore life. As we mark the 40th anniversary of his death this year, we decided to find out what it was that gave him power over the minds and hearts of some smart and sophisticated New Yorkers. Here's that story.
Hey, you've reached Chris. Leave a message.
Hi. We spoke this morning about your filming this documentary of Ulrich, and I've given it thought, and I just don't feel good about it at all. And I don't want to be interviewed about him and bring that all up again. It's too painful and dangerous, may I say.
In the 70s, everybody was searching. Everybody was looking for something else, something bigger.
I'm Phyllis Charney, and I lived for 15 years at 60 Riverside Drive, which is the scene of the crime, quote unquote.
I didn't find out a lot about some of the really, really crazy stuff till after the fact. Channel 7, I remember, interviewed me because someone told them that I was involved. And I was like, no, I'm not doing this. And they said, no, we'll protect your identity. We'll film you from behind. And went to school the next day, and my friends were like, hey, we saw you on TV.
A woman called someone, the Department of Health, and said, my name is Mary Magdalene, and I'd like to report a dead body. And so, of course, all the cop cars came. And it turns out that this young man who had passed of natural causes, he apparently had cancer, but he belonged to this cult.
We didn't call it a cult, of course. A cult never calls itself a cult.
They all worship this guy, Ulrich Bovar.
I'm a farm boy. Well, I used to be. Gene Kelly taught me how to dance when I was 9 years old. I used to go to movies of Gene Kelly's, see him 2 or 3 times and take notes and practice on my own. So that's what I wanted to do, showbiz. I must have been about 35 or 36 when I heard about Ulrich.
I got introduced to Tod by my friend Cameron Lorendo, who we were in a Broadway show together. You know, I was in my early 20s, so I was still very naive, very impressionable, and very, very lost. So when it talked about astrological charts, I said, oh, $50 at that time was $50, it still is, but I thought, okay, that's an okay investment. And that's how it all started for me with Ulrich Bovar.
The charts were like maybe 10 pages long, all single space. He got it right on the nose for a lot of people.
The gist of the chart was that I've chosen a life of physicality. I grew up in Alabama. My father was a football coach. I played all the athletics. And then I announced that I wanted to be a ballet dancer. Danced with New York City Ballet and Twyla Tharp and Harkness. And now here I am, 67, and I'm still competing in powerlifting. But at the time, the overall philosophy was that you're part of a bigger system and that your life on Earth was one incarnation. And there are many incarnations that happen. The analogy was a cup with a larger vessel. And you pick the life that you're going to be born into. It was rampant through theater. On a much broader scale, I find that the people in theater are much more curious and open to new things. So that's where it happened, and it was just word of mouth. You know, one person talks to one person and it just spreads.
I met him in person the first time. I was going to stay 2 weeks with him. God, I didn't know what I was looking for. I was this little tiny, beautiful picturesque station in Italy. Finally somebody appeared, and it was him. Had this bright red hair. Woo-hoo. We had a really nice working relationship. I didn't know anything about his past or anything else. I just knew this person.
I was performing with Harkness at the time. We were touring around Europe. I went down to Italy to see him for a day. We went out to go to lunch, and he drove, and all of a sudden, Auric is foaming at the mouth. I mean, he's screaming in Italian, arms waving, and just a road rage manifestation. And after the incident, I was like mouth open, aghast at the whole situation. And he said, no. He said, you have to remember, I'm human.
So when people wrote to Auric requesting a chart, if he thought that they were good candidates, he would suggest that they do the meditation, which he called the work. The first work was for 9 months. Once a day, try to do it at the same time each day. You sit down and you visualize a circle with a dot in the center. Either black on white or white on black, whichever you want. For 5 minutes, you try to keep that, only that in your head. And then the next 5 minutes, you do the next symbol, which was like a crossroads. Last one was equilateral triangle, same thing. The idea was to take everything else out of your brain except that symbol. And after the first meditation, if you'd done well enough, you got a next meditation. And the next meditation was different for each person.
June 2nd, 71. Another day with the post office closed. My dear Tod, here is your next meditation. Do the invocation as always. Then take 3 long, slow, gentle breaths into the stomach. As you take the breath, see yourself going higher into your head. To ease this with each breath, see yourself taking a large step up a mountain, one third of the way with you, the last taking you to the top. Sound the Om. Without becoming negative or losing thought of what you are doing, do not give up your identity as Tod. Choose the way, the interpreter of loving guidance, of integrating, and therefore ask for light through lifting power. Ask for the seal of silence. This is a year's work and will open remarkable doors to you.
All of that stuff, whether you were a singer, whether you were a dancer, whether you were an actor, or all the above, it was an asset. It was another tool that helped you center yourself, it helped your breathing, it helped everything, helped the mind, body, spirit focus.
Well, we became close right away, and I became a factor in what he was doing. There were always maybe 2 or 3 people in New City that would be able to help people start, that he would send them to, because he was in Italy. So as a result, I used to call him once a month. Plus we wrote letters at least once a month. Well, to do the astrological part is mathematical. He had all his equipment and he did it well. But then on top of that, you have to put your intuition. That's where it comes. That's what makes the difference. So it was a lot of work. And he only charged $50 for that. So everybody paid that happily. And what happened then, I'd send him $100, $200 sometimes. When I was there, I left him a couple of $300 because he had no money.
Well, I kept my word. Now I'm going.
Oh, you can't go, mister. I won't let you go.
But I've got to. Do you think I can stay here forever?
There ain't no place for you to go, except back where you came from.
I'll never go back where I came from.
He told me so many times he could never come, only for short visits, because the energy here was so intense and so awful that it would kill him. And this one time, I didn't hear from him for quite a while. I started getting worried about this. Called a couple other people, nobody had heard from him. Finally, I got a call from him. He thought he went into a coma. And the chief of police's wife found him, took him to the hospital right away, where he hated hospitals, hated drugs, hated all that. I think it really freaked him out a bit. The next time I hear from him, he said he's coming to New York to live, which was shocking.
There was talk that he would be coming to New York. You know, like anybody else who had had their chart done by Auric Bovar, you go, I'd like to meet him. You know, see who this is.
When he walked in the door from the airport, I didn't recognize him. First of all, he had a whole bunch of weight, down to really thin, just looked smaller in every way. His hair was white, it was a big change from red. And he was very gaunt looking, you know. It was just strange looking. He told me what he was going to do and what he was going to say and all that sort of thing. I was trying to wrap my head around it. But he told me then that he wanted me to keep notebooks, keep a journal about all this. April 12, 1975. Many disciples and students began a self-imposed period of purification as recommended by Auric. These things include a special diet, no alcohol or drugs, and a vow of celibacy until married. A few celibacy for the rest of their lives. Mine was for the rest of my life.
You'd look at those eyes, and those eyes would be like calm, like the glassy surface of a nice lily pond, like two pools of blue water that were almost hypnotic.
Early on, I was at a couple of parties in New York with him. He knew everybody else. They were there before me. So I sort of stood aside and watched. And every time he moved, like people just, it was like a magnet, like this. And so I stood away. I'm new, so at one point he comes saying, why have you talked to me?
So there were these little things along the way that kind of pulled you closer and closer. And then when it was announced that he was the second coming, I kind of went, what? You're what?
Friday, August 22nd, 1975. Auric began to tell me the most inspiring story. It brought tears of joy and a sense of new reality that I thought not possible to experience. He said that he'd been overshadowed by the Christ for 12 years, and from now on, the return of Christ was a reality. Oh, very exciting to think that you're going to be part of something that people have been waiting for. Not just Jesus, but anybody. They all said they'd come back again. Nobody has yet. You know, it's just a concept you don't ever expect to have to think about or will think about. But then it's in front of you, and so it takes your breath away a bit.
I think I need to start looking for an exit door. But then seeing the other people stay so fixed on it, a person like that with that kind of career, they can't be that naive. They can't be that gullible.
Auric, in my estimation, believed that he as the messenger was more important than the message, and started doing some really crazy, goofy stuff, boy. And so he had his East Coast apostles, he had his West Coast apostles, and never the twain should meet. And so there was, from my distant perspective on it, there was some tensions there.
There were a couple of times when you would find out that you needed to come and see him, and he would go through an exorcism. And so that happened to me twice.
And he would put a hand here and a hand back here right there with fingers and go through this whole kind of ritual kind of chanty thing about getting rid of it, you know, very dramatic.
Nothing happened. I mean, I didn't.
Did you go along with it?
Yeah, I went along with it more because everybody else was going along with it, and I was curious. It's almost like you're looking at somebody who is very, very charismatic and is now saying some pretty strange stuff, and it's almost like a character study. You go, wow, I'm in the same room with this person. This person's saying some of this. What makes this guy tick? What's going on?
One of the things that went through my mind is like, I'm here, I'm part of this. And I have many people I brought to it. I feel really responsible about that. And there's a chance that something's wrong. It really is upsetting. September 1st, 1975. Oric had predicted that there would be a major earthquake on that day, and that we should leave the city by 3 p.m., that we should wait there, that we should inform those we love of this, even the ones who were not on the work. People had convoys of people going out of town. So there were rehearsals in New York being canceled because people were afraid and didn't want to stay at rehearsal. They just canceled rehearsal. People got in cars, whatever, they got out, wherever they had to go.
You're talking about like Broadway shows and...
Right. I was organizing people to do whatever. And the last minute, I called him. I was about ready to get out of there. And he said, no, you're coming here. Don't tell anybody. There'll only be a couple of people here. 4:20, 4:50, whatever it was, 4:20, whatever the appointed hour came, and nothing happened. 4:10, we were told time had nothing to do with the message and would hold us in bondage. Said it was a test. It was going to happen at a time. Went back to his room. Didn't come out again until the next time it was supposed to happen. Well, that went on through the night till 12 o'clock midnight, and everybody was like full out by then. I was in the music room, sitting behind the piano. In the dark, you couldn't even see me. And the others were in the living room, and they were all asleep. And there was a big chandelier over the piano. It was on dim, and he went up, he looked around, saw the people in there. He went up and hit it to make it start moving, and then ran into the living room saying, like, it's happening, look, it's happening. And I don't know, well, I went through a whole bunch of stuff real fast. I decided I would not say anything. So I knew when I left the next morning, that was it for me. I just have to tell people that I know why and what happened. And but then I was off on a plane to 4 days. I was gone to a job in one of the islands or something, doing a show. And by the time I came back, the word was I was Judas, and I was the worst Judas ever. So that was it for me.
Well, first of all, everyone in the building was shocked, of course. And then people who lived on that floor was telling me other stories. No wonder it was like really cold around that time. And for some reason, the people in the 17H, Stefan, they had their windows wide open because the wind was whistling through the apartment and under the door into the hallway. They didn't know why, and they didn't really know him. He wasn't living there very long. And we were all pretty close, in that building. All of a sudden, they were throwing out dozens of air freshener in the compactor room. You know what that's about, right?
I think Ulrich felt that this was the one. He was going to cure this guy's cancer. They were chanting around him to help him. And he died. So they chant to bring him back to life, which is even better than curing him. And that's what they were doing, chanting to bring him back to life.
Now it became a news item because it was like a health violation. You're not supposed to have a dead body hanging out without reporting it, especially if you're sitting around praying for it to rise from the dead. So once there was a court date established that he had to show up in court, that was real. I didn't hear about that until after the fact, and I think that's tied directly to his demise.
I knew it was going to collapse. I didn't know how. I had no idea how, but I knew it was the whole thing was going to fall in. One morning at 7:30 in the morning, I get a phone call, and it's from somebody who I had put on the meditation, on the work, a long time before. He was walking his dog that morning, walked his dog out when the body fell next door, and he saw. And he went right back in the house, called me to tell me what he just saw. That's how I found out about it. I remember thinking, oh well, I knew something was going to happen, but not this.
There was a period of letdown and even depression, feeling that I really got took, and that I let myself down. I felt like I really let myself down. I didn't follow my gut instinct. I abandoned my intuitive side, because my intuitive side was saying, this is bullshit. This is bogus. This can't be. Because first of all, it wouldn't happen this way. I mean, it just wouldn't.
It was sad to have to have it that way, you know. It was tragic.
I was already withdrawing before the earthquake. Early on, I saw him as a human being. I took that lesson to heart. So when the message stayed the same, but his behavior became erratic, I was able to separate from it.
And I was totally off. I knew that. But still, you care about somebody, you care about them. I wanted to get well, that's what I wanted. I got rid of all my antiques, I got rid of everything. And went back to Midwest, because I had no money anyway. I went back home. And I found this group of players. I started telling them this story. He said, oh my God, you ought to write this down. So I went back to my little office, and about 3 days I was typing away like a madman, and I finished the thing.
He flew and I took up roller skating. Who's to know?
They have crucified him again, but that will not stop us. We will move to California and unite. California understands us better. They know we're right. They see the light.
Oh, poor Ulrich. He was such a gentle man. Even if the things he said didn't come true, how is that so much different than the rest of us?
Oh man, what a waste. Why do those connected ones so often jump on the path of destruction? I'm glad I'm a normal person.
He needed more time. He needed the 6 years. Why can't people understand that? This overreaction by the media and the dirt that they've overblown, it was just too much for his sensitive soul. we who survive will carry on somehow.
Before all this craziness, he was good. He was real good. When he entered a room, his energy was magnetic. And I used to watch him move around at parties, and the whole room would move with him like
they had been captured by his force field. Who knows what happened? No one will ever know, I suppose. I think something happened to his brain in that coma in Italy. Something small that allowed his magnetism to somehow stay intact. Anyway, he was my friend. This tale has happened many times before. It will happen many times in the future, probably. And it's probably happening right now. That particular search that never seems to end. People want to know more about what it is they are. And it doesn't seem to be something that you ever get to be totally gratified by an answer.